Hey guys, it's Kayla. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've watched some of my videos before. Today we're going to be doing my April wrap-up, which is very exciting because I had a really good reading month. This month I spent a lot of time reading Brandon Sanderson's books. I am so close to finishing everything that he's written, aside from the last 3 books in the Wheel of Time, and so I'm kind of just on a roll. I'm like excited because I'm getting so close to the finish, so I'm just kind of flying through them at this point. So that's exciting. I'm actually going to start from my worst rated books this month and then go up to my most favorite books this month. So jumping right into it, my least favorite book this month was definitely Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahoran. And I DNF'd this book at, I think, 60%, mostly just because I know this book is really widely loved on Instagram and on BookTube, and I don't know, I just figured it would be fantastic, and I found it to be anything but. The premise of this book is basically just an arranged, forced marriage between a witch and a witch hunter and the things that happen to them along the way. There's really not any other plot. For me, that's not enough to read a book. I don't want to just read about a relationship because I don't enjoy the romance genre. And if that's what I wanted, I would pick a romance book, not a fantasy book that only delves into romance. It's just not something that I enjoy. And I also found the writing to be very juvenile, that the world building was non-existent, and that it just overall wasn't my taste. It just felt very flat for me. The next book is A Curse to Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kammerer. I rated this book 3 stars, and I thought it was fine. I thought it was an okay book. I didn't hate it per se. I thought there were parts of it that were interesting. I finished it, so I guess there's that. I just don't feel like there's anything that stands out to me. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and that is the plot of the book. There's not really a whole lot different from, I don't know, A Court of Thorns and Roses, I guess, other than the lack of the Fae, but I guess that's a win in its favor. But either way, it really didn't stand out to me. I thought the characters were fine. I just didn't feel like, I don't know. It's another one of those books that's really hyped up, and I guess, I don't know. Maybe my expectations were too high going into it. I just did not feel like it was special. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought it was a fine book. I would never read it again. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I just didn't enjoy it. Okay, and then moving on. The rest of the books I enjoyed. Those 2 were the only ones that I just really wasn't a big fan of, and that I would say, for the most part, are just, well, obviously Serpent and Dove I feel like is just bad, and then Curse of Dark I thought was mediocre. The next book I read is It Burns by Mark Fennell. This is an Audible original, and it is a documentary in a sense about the world of hot chili peppers, and it follows Mark Fennell as he interviews the growers of the hot chilies and just some people who have experience in the whole world and some of the scandals behind it. I thought it was a really interesting read. Like, for a free book, it exceeded my expectations, and I would pay like $5 probably for it. I wouldn't like go out and buy, like, I wouldn't pay $20 for it, you know, but it was a free with my membership. Okay, so moving on to all of the Sanderson that I read. I started out with Edge Dancer, which I rated 4 stars. This is a novella that kind of takes place in the world that Stormlight Archives takes place in, and it follows a character named Lift. And it's fun. It's a pretty short book. I think it was a 6-hour audio, and it just kind of is suggested to read before Words of Radiance, I think, but you don't have to read it. It just sort of gives you a little bit more information about Lift as a character if you're interested in her, but otherwise you can skip it, I guess. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. Thought it was a kind of nice break. Although I did binge it while I was reading Oathbringer. It was weird. It's weird times, you know what I mean? Then I read The Rithmatist, which is a YA Sanderson, and holy crap, that is a good book. It follows a character named Joel who goes to a school, and the school is broken up into 2 parts. The regular school with the regular students, and the rithmatists who are selected very specifically. It's exclusive, not everybody can be a rithmatist, and Joel really wants to be one. Rithmatists use chalk drawings to create little, I don't know, they duel with chalk. Like, they draw these 2D things and they attack. And there's these things called wild chalklings. It's just it's drawings that are attacking in the magic system. It's so cool. Such a cool magic system. Of course it is. Really fantastic. Raising the bar for YA across the board in my opinion. Great world building. Just a really fun book. I would recommend it. It's short, so you can breeze through it. I think the audio was 10 hours or so. And yeah, like really fun. Pulled me out of a reading slump. Just, you know, pretty standard Sanderson. Happy day. Happy me. There's also a scene at the very end that just... I will talk about Brandon Sanderson's endings all day, but the ending of this book, chef's kiss. Like, moments that you don't even know you want occur, you know? Like, he just gives you these things that you didn't even envision happening, and then they happen, and you're like, what? You didn't even know you wanted it. It's just exciting. Then I read Bourne. These are going to be 5 stars from here on out, by the way. Rithmatist I gave 4 stars just because, I mean, I loved it, but I wasn't like over the top like I am with Bourne and the Stormlight Archives and stuff. So Bourne, this is my 3rd time reading the series. It is a heist novel that follows a character named Vin, who is a girl who lives on the streets who gets plucked up to be trained as a Bourne and also to infiltrate high society as a noble woman. And there's a crew, and it's fun. It's pretty dark, really dark for Sanderson specifically. I actually watched something recently about him talking about when he was trying to get published and how publishers were really just looking for dark, gritty books like Game of Thrones, and it kind of makes sense that Bourne is so dark because it's something that was so early in his publishing career. So anyway, really great book. Really great place to start with Sanderson also if you're like haven't picked up a book. I think this is a great starting point. Speaking of starting points, moving right into Warbreaker, which I read recently after I finished Oathbringer. I gave this book 5 stars. It is fantastic. Once again, I feel like I've used that word a lot, but man, I read a lot of Sanderson, okay? That is the word that describes him in general. So Warbreaker is much more YA than some of his other books, but it deals with much more adult and mature themes. I think that it is a great starting point as well into this world. And if you're reading YA and you want to break into Sanderson, I think this is another reason to start here because it feels familiar in that there is some romance in it, but it also has a complex plot. And there's just some things that happen in it that, I don't know, there's the unique magic system, pretty good world building considering it's a standalone. It's not super chunky, but it is like 600 pages, but that's all you have to read. And if you don't end up liking his writing, or if you don't want to continue in the Sanderson universe, then you're one and done, you know what I mean? So really great place to start as well. The premise of this book is that there are 2 princesses. One of them is betrothed to an enemy king and has to be sent to that kingdom to try to keep the peace. The magic system in this has to do with colors and breaths. Literally anytime I hear the word breath now, I think biochromatic breaths and Warbreaker. I can't even hear the word without thinking about this. So yeah, I don't know. I loved it. I loved it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and round out the Sanderson. I do have one other book, but it's not Sanderson that I gave 5 stars to. Oathbringer, 3rd book in the Stormlight Archives. I can't believe I only read this month. It feels like it's been a long time since I've read it, but it hasn't. It hasn't. It was this month. It's crazy to think that. But this is a great installment following the same characters, focusing on Dalinar Kholin. I'm not going to go ahead and talk about this a whole lot. I have a vlog you can check out if you want, but obviously if you haven't read the book, you don't really care what happens in the 3rd one, right? Just know that the Stormlight Archives are fantastic, and that if you want to start reading epic fantasy, Brandon Sanderson is the place to go, my friend, because he writes in a way that is very easy to read, but is also extremely immersive, and his world building and character building in this are just incomparable. So, okay, so finally, coup de grace. Honestly, I saved this one for the end. I actually finished it in the beginning of May, but I read the majority of it in April, so I'm going to go ahead and include it in this because I was very excited about it, and that book is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winters. Man, this book, I don't see that many people talking about, but the people that are talking about it are talking it up, and I'm going to join that bandwagon because this book is so good. It is not like anything I've read before. Like, there are certain parts of it that are familiar because you can only do so much, you know what I mean? There's training. The character that we follow's name is Tao, and the class systems in this world are very strict in that even down to the food that they eat is restricted. So like the peasant class, the lowers, are only able to eat like vegetables and stuff, and the uppers can eat meat. And so like because of this, like the lower class are just smaller. They're only allowed to marry each other, and so they're just smaller people in general because of that. And then also years of, you know, people having children with only other people that are smaller because their diet is restricted. And also there's a magic system in this as well that's really cool. And of course there's dragons that have to do with the magic, and these people called the gifted who are selected that can enter this sort of alternative world. And in that there's these demons that they have to kind of fight to defend off of themselves while using their magic in the real world to power up or control other things. So like they can make humans really big and monstrous so they can fight like kind of like giants, or they can control the dragons to fight for them. And it's really freaking good. It's a little bit dark. I don't mind that. I don't mind darkness and violence. But I was surprised how much I like this book. I flew through it. It's I cried. The main character has to overcome so much. Like his growth in general throughout the book is commendable. I just love it. This is the first book in this series, and I look forward to the second one. I think it comes out in November or something. So yeah, highly recommend it. Pick it up. It literally is at the top of my list, up here with Oathbringer. Like that is how good it was. Just fantastic. So the word of this video is fantastic, and I'm done talking about books, and I'm out of breath because my battery's been dying for so long. So that is that. I read 9 books, a gajillion pages, and I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. I would appreciate it very much. Stay tuned, and there will be more to come.